Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Midday Western U.S. Regional Forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, I got some great comments and questions after last week's videos about what's going on with the southwestern monsoon. So let's talk about it at the beginning of this video and kind of make it a major theme of what we're going to be discussing here in the near term. Looking first, just at the last 10 days, we're looking at a map showing us temperature anomalies across much of North America. And when we look at this overall, this is not the correct setup that we want to be seeing for getting the monsoon going anytime early. What am I talking about here? Generally, what we want to do is we want to be bringing in quite a bit of heat into this part of the country. Now, I know you're saying, wait a minute, I see these warmer than average temperatures. And I say, yeah, you do. But on average, I need to see the heat really building across a big section here. And that's to really set up the overall flow in the lower levels of the atmosphere such that it responds to generally lower than normal atmospheric pressure across this region. And that draws in moisture from both the Gulf of Mexico and out of the Pacific Ocean and starts to bring in this flow that daily brings convection to this region. Turns out about half of the annual rainfall in parts of Arizona and New Mexico comes from this 3-month-long monsoonal flow pattern. So if we wanted to see the monsoon getting going early, we would need to see a lot more ridging along the western part of the United States for that to happen. But instead, if you just get rid of those drawings there, you can see that while we've been slightly above average in terms of temperature through parts of the Intermountain West, much of the Pacific Northwest from Montana to Oregon, and then coming down parts of California over the last 10 days have really resisted seeing some of the extreme temperatures that can be seen this time of year. So as a consequence of that, when we just look over the last 30 days, looking at the percent of normal precipitation, outside of a couple of large convective events, I mean individual thunderstorm clusters in parts of Arizona and Utah, we are in general drier than normal across much of the West, where we would typically see our monsoonal flow starting to bring in these bluer colors in through this area. There are some sections of New Mexico that have been wetter than average over the last 30 days, but in general, we've had a delay in the arrival of our monsoon this year. Now, I'm going to show you a great resource. Feel free to pause the video, go to this website. It's a great one up here. This is from Arizona, University of Arizona, and they keep track of the monsoon throughout the year. And one of the neat things that they have here is they've got these different regions. You can see each one of them a different region down there along the x-axis. And they show you in blue where the 2019 precipitation currently stands from monsoonal rains. This again through July 22nd here, compared to average. And so you can see that the blue bars are substantially shorter, and as a consequence of that, being so much shorter than the last 30-year normal there, that the monsoon is late in arriving. Well, the question we want to answer is it coming? When are we going to see it develop? And I'm going to get you a solid answer to that in the next couple of moments here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the overall flow of the atmosphere just looking back over the last 24 hours. We have seen a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity down here in parts of New Mexico and Arizona, and some of those storms have spread to the north of this as well, getting into the Intermountain West, snaking through part of the Northwest, really going through the Snake River Valley there, and then getting up into parts of Montana. Some of these storms curling around the backside of this have produced some of the most spectacular thunderstorms in terms of the view of them that I've seen. Again, and that's in parts of Wyoming, some incredible storm structure there, but also across parts of Colorado, a lot of just daily convection. Now, when you look at this animation, we can see the overall flow. There's a broad trough here, big front moving through parts of the southeast, and a large ridge sitting here over the western United States. Now, if you just look at the last 24 hours of precip, we can see the center of that. Look, you can actually see the flow of the moisture around it. And we're looking here again at total precipitation. So some locally heavy rainfall, but this is not the monsoonal flow. This is just flow around a ridge, and it's going up over the mountains, and the mountains are helping initiate some of the convective activity. So the question is, are we going to see a change from this in the near term? Well, looking right now, the Pacific Ocean flow pattern is relatively weak and disorganized. We do have a trough that's sweeping through parts of the Northwest right now, building into a large ridge that goes up into parts of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. This then dips south into a really highly amplified pattern for this time of year. And the question we're going to have to talk about or answer here is, where's that ridge going? Because we can clearly see it sitting and spinning right now, which means we're going to keep things kind of the way they have been for the next couple of days. But we're going to talk about what's going to be going on in Mexico, in the desert southwest, to help bring in those monsoonal rains, which are late compared to average. Thankfully, some folks did get some rain out of this, though. Okay, so in the near term, what are we looking at? Well, here's the all hazards weather map from weather.gov. The color that you see in through these areas, this is all red flag warning. So we're worried here about fires. We do have, where we don't have the convection popping up in the mountains, we do have some drier conditions and windier conditions, and that is of concern. We're also watching this section here of the San Joaquin Valley through the end of this weekend, early weekend, for some extreme heat. We're actually going to see that triple-digit heat spreading very close to the coast, and that's why the weather.gov has gone ahead and the National Weather Service has put out an excessive heat watch for that area. So just going to take a look at that one region first. Again, we're talking right in through this corridor. We're just going to animate forward the National Digital Forecast Database high temperatures, because temperature pattern is really our story before the precipitation pattern is given, how the temperatures really help us understand what's going on with the precipitation patterns. That's how monsoon works. So, sorry, with that, let's look at high temperatures on Tuesday. We see a lot of triple-digit heat running through both the San Joaquin and the Sacramento Valley. And of course, down here in the desert southwest, we're talking temperatures in the low 100s, approaching 110. Now, as we click play on this, and let's get this out to Wednesday, look right in through this area. You're going to see 104 to 105, maybe some locations getting up to about 108 degrees in through here. So this is warmer than average, much warmer than average, while the rest of the valley here sees temperatures that will be, approaching the century mark, maybe getting into the low 100s. So that is the concern. That's Wednesday. If you get into Thursday, similar story. So 104, 105, 106, this is the concern with the heat in the middle and end of this week. Now let's take this out to Friday. I know it looks as though it cools down, but it's not. See, we still see these 105, 108, these much above average temperatures in through parts of the San Joaquin Valley. So let's keep going. This is now Saturday's high temperatures. Same story. Getting into Sunday and Monday. So it's a pretty consistent theme here with a lot of heat in the Central Valley of California moving forward. And so the excessive heat watch is warranted right in through this particular area. Okay, so very warm temperatures. Outside of this, take a look at what temperatures look like by watching the flow of the jet stream. You're going to see a lot of troughing moving through parts of the Northwest as these troughs keep sweeping through parts of the Gulf of Alaska. And that's going to just kind of stave off the hotter weather here in the near term. As I animate this forward, though, pay attention to this ridge. Ready? Here we go. 500 millibar heights. So we're looking at troughs and ridges over the next 15 days in 6-hour steps. So see the trough sweeping through, but see the broader ridge building here? This trough in the Gulf of Alaska and Western Canada is going to dominate the early pattern. And you saw it retreat back here to sit over much of northern Canada and over the Hudson Bay. And that's going to allow our ridge with time as we end July and get into August to really broaden and let the jet stream retreat to the north. Now, what does all of that mean? Well, it means this in terms of temperatures. In the near term, over the next 5 days, that's the map over here on the left. The amplified pattern, remember, it does something like this with a little trough coming in here, bigger ridge there than the broader trough in this area. Yes, heat comes up here, heat comes into California, cool in this area, but because of the troughs that keep sweeping in like this, some of the Pacific Northwest hangs onto the cooler bias while the Canadian prairies warm up. But look what happens once we get out to days 5 through 10. At this particular point, we're now watching the trough push into parts of Western Canada, and as it does that, it elongates and broadens out the flow of the jet stream, so more widespread warmth begins to return into this area and actually even spread across the country, so it's not just in the west. But take a look at what goes on once we get out to days 10 through 15. At that point, because of the full retreat of the jet stream to the north, it appears, we keep much of the western United States well above average. And as we talked about in the beginning, that's what we need to start seeing to get some lower atmospheric pressure to form near the surface. Again, that's a surface feature to get that monsoonal flow going. But we're now talking about the end of the first week of August. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying it, but yeah, we're talking now about August weather. And so we're going to see what this means in terms of precipitation next, okay? So let's get into it. In the day on Tuesday, there could be some scattered showers and storms through parts of California and in parts of Nevada. And we're going to continue to watch for some stronger showers and storms that are moving through parts of Arizona and New Mexico. Some of them could possibly be severe in that corridor in parts of Arizona and New Mexico. Meanwhile, up the west coast, if you just notice here, we do have a broader area of lower atmospheric pressure out ahead of this next trough. So again, we're watching through parts of far eastern parts of Oregon, but getting into this parts of the Snake River Valley for some storms. Meanwhile, big dome of higher atmospheric pressures clean things out in the midsection of the United States. Okay, so watch this. Starting off at 6 a.m., this is actually 6 a.m. Central Time, so 4 a.m. West Coast time, we're going to click play on our high-resolution rapid refresh model. And you just see basically the same thing you saw yesterday, just a little bit farther west progression. So yes, there could be some scattered showers and storms through parts of Southern California, getting into Southern Nevada early, and then spreading through much of Nevada, Idaho, and again, this quarter right in through here throughout the day. Those storms then curl around, as you saw, because there's a big area of higher pressure here, and it's just going to be big storms blowing up on the mountains all over the western United States. See that there? That's very typical summer pattern when you got a big ridge parked over Utah. And that is what we're going to be watching in the near term. All right. What about the longer term? Well, we can switch over to our lower resolution model here, the European, and play it out for the next 10 days. But in general, the problem over the next 10 days is this. You see, we do see in the European model, we see drier than average conditions coming up through parts of Mexico there. And why that's got me concerned is that means that the atmosphere has not yet fully responded to the heat that will be building into the mountains in the coming days. And it's going to take some time. There's going to be a bit of a lag before we start to get the moisture pull from the monsoon. So in the near term, it's not really there. So if I just animate for you, and there's no point in going through some of the bigger details here. You got a couple of troughs that are coming through, so you're going to see some coastal precipitation here, but the main storm track is through Canada. So as I click play, you're just going to see flashes of green in this area, which are the daily convective activity on the mountains. Are you ready? See the storm track through Canada? See the flashes of green coming up there? But you do notice that by the time I get you out in the first week of August, see the streak of wet conditions that's coming up in through here? That could be the beginning, after enough heat, of the monsoon starting to arrive. And that's where the bigger picture comes in here. So take a look at this. I've got you now to the second week of August, and you notice how there is some cooler temperature showing up here. Well, that heat that's building in the near term, by the time we get here into the second week of August, when we start to see cooler anomalies showing up in this area, that is indicative of cloud cover and precipitation. So it looks like we could get our first decent surge of the southwestern monsoon happening into that second week of August. Notice the heat all around it and the cooler temperatures in here. And look at how the model has responded. This is the long-range European. You can actually start to see the wetter than average conditions in that area. So it looks as though it's about a month late in arriving, but we could start to get some monsoonal flow pushing up into, well, the desert southwest, which again, as we learned at the beginning of this video, these winds and the rain that they bring are responsible for about half of the annual rainfall. So it's quite important we get these rains coming into this area this time of year. About the only saving grace with all of this is that we are getting some showers and thunderstorms now that are from a different system, and our mountain snowpack was phenomenal last year. So at least our overall water health picture has been good for much of the western United States. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this forecast video right here. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions, thank you for your attention. Hope you look forward to all of our forecasts that are coming out this week at my.nutrienagsolutions.com. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.